get right to that breaking news. With less than 90 minutes to a doomsday deadline, it is instead calamity averted. What President Trump had promised to be a U.S. attack that would kill a whole civilization of Iran has now become a 2-week ceasefire.
So we found out about this from President Trump taking to Truth Social just a few moments ago, saying he is suspending attacks on Iran for 2 weeks, still hinging that on the Islamic Republic opening the Strait of Hormuz again.
The president's relentless threats to wipe out all of Iran. Tonight, still an international law experts here in Chicago has them deeply concerned. Our investigative reporter Chuck Goudie in our studios with much more on that. Chuck.
Allison, the concern of international law experts here is that the U.S. has already moved from a rule of law military to a law be damned posture. And for them, a temporary ceasefire doesn't change that. In the past 48 hours alone, U.S. airstrikes on Iran have taken out universities, residential buildings, a place of worship, and the largest highway bridge in the Middle East. Iran, responding to the threatened doomsday deadline today, had placed human shields on bridges and around power generating plants. Tonight, a DePaul International Studies professor from Iran says all of it looks like history repeating itself.
It's a reliving of 1933 Germany. I mean, it's, this is, you kind of go back to history. This is pretty much similar to what happened. I mean, we are seeing a version of fascism kind of taking root here. There are all these educational centers, universities, hospitals that are being hit pretty indiscriminately, actually.
Well, the President of the United States, if he's taken at his word, said this morning that he wants to get rid of that civilization, exactly what you're talking about, that there won't be any more normal lives there if he carries through his threat.
The fact that, a country that's supposedly based on laws and rule of law, that is like the architect of the international law system since the Second World War, can just discard it. And there's very little pushback against effective pushback, institutional as well as legal, even in the media, against what is going on is actually quite remarkable. It's shocking.
The thing that is, I think, particularly distressing about this situation is that for a long time, for generations and generations, the uniformed services, so the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, they've been the leaders in promoting the respect for human rights, promoting the respect for the laws of war. And the idea of dignity and respect for the law has been front and center. And so in the early days after September 11th, when the intelligence services were proposing that the U.S. needed to redefine the laws of war, it was the military that pushed back and said, no, we don't. We need to stick with these core values.
Repeating now the late development, President Trump's deadline pushed again, this time 2 weeks, but the threat remains. The White House Facebook page still showing an ominous quote beneath the president's picture. It still reads, 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. The clock now reset for April 21st, Allison.